Hello again, everyone. You're watching Dale's Rails. Hey, I'm got a subject here on my workbench that I pulled off the shelf and it quit working. And the problem is, now I found out is this drum in here. So I thought I would do a video on this. This engine, something that apparently I never serviced when I bought it, which I don't understand because usually I do. It must have ran fairly good. So, it's just something I never really took the time to service properly. So now would be a good time to do it since I have to tear it apart to work on this E unit. So, I'm going to get my trusty mineral spirits here. This model is a 2026. It's the early version of the 2026, which is the Prairie style, the 262. The later style of the 2026 is actually an Adriatic style. It's a 264. So it's, both of these engines, both versions. I think the 2026 that I have here is from 1948 to 49. These are going to be the ones that are better detailed. I mean, they do have they have a full set of valve gear. They've got the eccentric crank, and they also have the wire handrails. Most of the early post-war versions all had the chrome or steel or nickel rim drivers, whatever. They got the shiny outer edges on the drivers. And one thing about these early post-war versions, they had these brush tubes, instead of your regular looking brushes. So you see these tubes, these springs in here are going to have coil springs. And, I pulled the springs out of here. You can see how filthy dirty they are. They are, that's what that is. That is caked on, burnt on oil. So oil has gotten into the armature here. And, there's oil residue everywhere. But it's got in here on the brushes and the commutators, and not good. It ran pretty good like that, and until the drum gave out. But you see on here, these brushes here are those kind that have the the little reduced end on it like that. Maybe kind of hard to see, but it has that reduced end. So that's so they can insert inside these brushes and seat inside those brushes, or the brush springs. So you got these little, very small coil springs here. It's not something you really want to lose. And, I'm wearing a glove tonight. I had an accident today. Tried to chop off my finger, so I'm doing this video just to kind of take my mind off the pain, if nothing else. So, yeah, I kind of caught it with a chainsaw. So, let that be a lesson to everybody. I'm just trying to get in a hurry. And, what they say, haste makes waste. And it can also chop your fingers off. So, I'm going to kind of struggle through with this glove tonight. They've got a splint on here, and I don't want to get, this oily residue all over my bandages. So, and then just a little bit of mineral spirits on here. That brush is wow, that brush is copper now. Does a really good job of taking off all that old oil and crud. So I don't know if you guys can see that very good, but that's nice and shiny and coppery now. And the other brush down here, same way. It could stand just a little bit more cleaning. You can see just how much black crud. I mean, this rag was white when I started. So there's quite a bit of crud that I'm getting off of these brushes. So another thing I want to do is I'm going to get a little bit more mineral spirits here and get some on my Q-tip here. I want to clean these brush wells out really well. Take a little bit off. Those tubes are kind of small, so we're going to take and clean these out real good. Get these tubes clean. You can see how black that is. So we'll go ahead and clean the other one. Take a little bit of that off. Doesn't even hurt to really go in there with a dry end and kind of ream that out a little bit with all the crud that's in there. And you can see how much crud I'm getting just out of those brush tubes. So, you know, they were pretty fouled. It's amazing that this engine could run like that, actually. So, so there's that. Get the commutators cleaned real well. Like we're due for a new Q-tip here, maybe. Take and soak a little bit of that up in there. Does a really good job of loosening up all that crud. You know, the shaft is pretty gunked up, you know. I mean, this, if you notice, this brush plate is one of those plates that does not have a brass bearing in there. And so I find these will tend to squeal pretty loudly if they're not oiled. So it's going to be something you got to oil this, because otherwise it's going to be, like I say, squealing pretty loud if you don't. We can get this commutator cleaned up really good. Really didn't take that long. That shaft cleaned really good. I don't know that I'm going to really bother with pulling this back plate off. I will go ahead and clean this up a little bit while I got it off. There, that's sticking out. So doesn't hurt to have a pair of these reverse tweezers. I kind of recommend those. If you don't have a pair, they're just handy for small parts like this. Okay. Bear with me here. I'm trying to work with a gloved hand, so. There, that one's on there. Good one out. A little spring. Hey, that's seated on there pretty good. Got this brush plate cleaned really well. And you just drop the brushes in the tubes. Yep. It really isn't a good way to do that. That's about the only way you can really do these. Okay, it's been a while since I took this apart, so I don't really recommend waiting that long between times to, once you take things apart, to put them back together again. This has been sitting on my bench for, oh gosh, probably close to a week now, unassembled. You know, I've never really ever had too much problems of figuring out what screw goes where. I don't know, it just seems to kind of come natural to me. Here's the other brush screw. You know, it's a good idea to maybe even film yourself. You know, I didn't film this taking it apart. There's the brush plate back on. Want to just snug these down. You want to be careful not to over tighten. That's why it's handy to have a, you know, a little bit smaller torque screwdriver where you can't over torque on that. So there's the brush plate back on. We got that back together. So I have these old, these are electrician's tool. You know, they're chain pliers. I'm going to try to see if I can make them a E-unit pliers. And, you know, they're made special where, you know, back in the day when we hung chandeliers and swag lights, chain hung, you know, you could pry the chain apart. And this part back here's where you inserted the chain back in, you closed it back together. But what's handy about having a tool, a spreader tool, rather than just trying to do it with a pair of needle nose or something, is that it gives you the ability to use your free hand to hold this in place so stuff just doesn't go flying. So I'm going to try this, hope it'll work, and pop this E-unit apart. Looks like it's doing it. There it is. So that's what's handy about that. That way stuff doesn't go flying. And then here's your reverse action tweezers. Yeah, see the that shaft's completely gone. You know, I have, like I said, I have repaired these, and I'll probably hang on to this one. You can see how dirty it is. I mean, that stuff is, yeah, I guess it will wipe off. It's not burnt on there, at least, or baked on. So now we got the E unit apart. It's a good idea to kind of look at these contacts here. And you can see these contacts are, you know, if you guys can see that, hopefully you can see that. You can see these contact fingers. They're still really in good shape. In fact, they got a really good form to the profile there. I don't know if you can see that stirrup look to it. And, you know, they're dirty, but they don't really have to. I think this is something that would just, it's like an oil that will just wipe off. I'll try it with my cleaner first. And those look pretty good. You know, just like that. You can just carefully take and just lightly take a Scotch-Brite pad and just want to kind of go away. You know, you don't want to try to go back and forth because you don't want to take a chance. These things are very, very fine piece of metal. I mean, there's springs, kind of springy, and this will kind of polish them up. We'll take a look. Here's your other set of fingers. You can see that they've got the same looking. There's your other set of fingers here that the drum rests on. This is the pawl that's in there. I can pull that pawl out of there just to give myself a little bit more room. Don't really need it out of there, but I think I'm just going to leave that in there. I don't know if that's really going to be in my way. Just to get to these fingers. Then I can clean these off. It's a good idea to, you know, get these back to shiny metal. And you don't really want any oil in there. It looks like oil's gotten in here too. And, you know, can't quite get in there with that. Maybe take a Q-tip here with some mineral spirits on it. Not like that's going to hurt anything back there, but, you know, while I got it apart, I like to have it clean. So here's a new drum. You know, I happen to have one, so I was thinking that I did. And if you notice when we took that out of there, I don't know, you probably didn't notice, but those cogs were faced that direction. So that's the way you want to put this back in. Because this pawl hooks on there and pulls this around this direction. It pulls it and rotates it around into each position each time. Each time you activate the E unit. And should have probably got some toothpicks. I guess I got one right here. So here's a toothpick. They're pretty handy to use to kind of hold this pawl back out of your way. You can put it in there like that, slide it across there like that, and that'll hold that pawl out of your way. Like I say, you want to make sure you put this in the right direction. So we just simply put that back in there like so. And I'm going to bring my bottom set of fingers back up in place. Seems it's best if you can kind of, I mean, this is one of those deals that takes maybe more than one hand almost. If I could bring that. Oh. that's going to want to set in place there. You can put this bottom one back in place. So this right here, this pin right here is not lined up, so that's part of the problem. I think you'd get an E-unit tool if you do this enough. A pair of channel locks sometimes work pretty good to pop these back together. Get this kind of started somewhat. There we go. At least that will stay in place now. That looks pretty good. I like that. I get this one to go in. Spread this apart again a little bit here. Sometimes these go back together easier than other times, and sometimes they don't. There's a pin here that needs to line up. There it goes. It just falls in when you're not trying to. hold it there long enough. It is a bit of a challenge to try to get this to, the teeth are, the little fingers there are springy, so it wants to push this back out of the hole while I'm trying to push it in. So there's nothing to really hold it in place until you get this snap back together. You almost have to have it somewhat pop back together. There we go, that might have helped out a little. We're getting there now. Well, that is so close. Okay, we got to get this slid down just a little bit more. I think it'll go. I think that's it. I just got to pop it together the rest of the way. There we go. Yeah, so that's together now. It took some doing, but it's together. So all these, you got this shaft on the drum, this little notch here for this finger, that notch there for this finger, and then there's a post that goes all the way through that holds this whole thing together. It's just all pressed fit. So you have to have everything, this, and this all lined up. And these two sets of fingers here are pushing this drum back away from the hole. So it's really kind of a deal where you almost have to have these together close enough to create some resistance so you can keep it in place. So let's just activate this. So yeah, that's going to work real good now. So now we got the plunger rotating the drum like it needs to. So, you know, we should have a good working E unit again. Hope you guys can see that. So it's working, drum's turning real good. It's in there, looks like it's in there. You want this to be, these posts to be flush with the edge on both sides. That's how you know you got it seated properly. Everything should be flush, you know, with the metal sides of the E unit. So all that is. So I think we can put this back in now. It finally dawned on me why I never probably took this apart to service it, just because these are a royal pain to work on. There's a lot to these about taking them apart and putting them back together. It's very similar to the 2025 and the 675 and the 2035. That's the only thing about these. When they designed these, there's just a lot of parts that go into one of these models like this. And so, you know, it did run good. That was the other reason I probably didn't bother to take it apart. You know, this seems like the late or the early post-war versions. They just seem to run so much nicer. I don't know what it is about these motors, but they are some of the smoothest running motors, in my opinion anyway, I think, from what I've experienced. Now you can see just how easy these turn. I mean, these turn very easily. So, and they run that way too. So, a lot to like about the run characteristics, but as far as working on them, they are a royal pain in the patootie. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. You know, if you get one of these, you know, I don't really have issues with them, because once they've been restored or you know, serviced, you know, they usually don't have any problems. I mean, that was a little bit unusual for this E unit, that drum to go bad. I've had that happen before. You know, I knew right away. I mean, it was just very suspect when it was running and then it suddenly stopped like a dead short. That's what it acted like. And you know, it's a lot to take this apart just to check out why it's not working. So you're going to see here in a little bit. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. You know, I should have took so long to reassemble this. I should have done this when it's still fresh in my memory. So I'm kind of Trying to put this together as quickly as I can because it took me too long to put that E unit together. Wasn't planning for that to go that long. Kind of had some struggles there with that too. You know, it just seems like it wants to fight me on this one. So, thing on here, I think, is to take these, you know, your guides off here. They screw on here for your main driver slides. This is gonna require that this shell goes on first. I mean, first we're gonna have to put these handrails in. You know, something else I did on this is I took a Scotch-Brite pad. You know, it's pretty quick to just run these through a Scotch-Brite pad, and it will remove all that old oxidation. I did it on all the drive rods. You know, it just doesn't take long at all. I mean, I think it's actually faster than using some type of chemical, because it, you know, you don't have to, you know, mess around with the chemical. You don't have to wait for it to dry. You can just run that Scotch-Brite pad over there, and it will polish up those drivers pretty quick. I mean, it's just a real quick, you know, to take that and get all that old oxidation off of there. Well, that got those dried up. I'm gonna throw my glove back on here. Okay, and there's that. We need to get these. First thing to do is probably install these handrails. And actually, they got to be a little bit of a pain here. That one went right in there. Okay, there's that one. Wow. That's unusual for those to go right in there like that easy. Well, at least that went good. Maybe things are starting to look up a little here. Well, there's that. We gotta get our hand rods or handrails back on. I'm gonna forget those. We'll be taking this whole thing back apart. And we'll just position this over. Sure that, like that, seated on good. Could be a big screw here, goes in this right there. I'm just gonna run this down most of the way. I'm not gonna tighten it. I like that to leave that loose, because there's a rod, or I'm not sure what this is called, a pin that slides in that holds the back of the motor in. It's one of those that's got this pin that goes in there. I like to leave that just a little bit loose, and then See how quick this all goes back together. There's a lot going on right here trying to get all this back in shape, back in place. Those have to be started in there. Okay, hopefully this is going to be right. This model has a cam on the piston, smoke piston. You know, it's similar to the 681, 671s. And I think my Polar Express, my Line Chief Polar Express has that cam action to the piston, smoke piston. I don't know why they went away from that, because it works very good, especially on this model. It'll shoot that smoke a foot above the engine. So kind of strange why they went to those cranks. Piston must have been a pain to do too, I guess. This screw here. Two screws there. Hold the steam chest back on. There's your eccentric cranks. They're both in their slots. Let me get me a different tip in here. So I can tighten that up a little better. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And here's these pieces there. Those have a slot that goes in the steam chest. Lines up on that. And your money ahead just taking these out. It's just a real pain in the butt otherwise if you leave those in there. You might as well just bite the bullet and take these out of there. There's a screw here that lets you screw this back down to the body. Just one screw. It's not that big a deal to take these out. It's almost, I mean, you could probably do it, trying to slide this all on with all these left in place, but I've just learned a long time ago, you might as well bite the bullet and just quit. Don't try to take any shortcuts, because it'll end up biting you in the butt. So there's that. The other screw for that. Like I said, I probably could have done this a little quicker if I hadn't waited so long to put it all back together while it was still fresh in my memory. But, you know, I've done enough of these that it's not too bad. That E unit, it's been a while since I've done one of those, and I seem to recall it's better to just put all the fingers and snap everything back in and then re-spread it and then try to put that drum in. That's probably what I should have done. That's why that took so long. You know, I struggled through that. And it wasn't just because I had a bad finger either. So there's that. And we don't want to forget your main rods. These have these bolts. They would go to the outside. you know, you wouldn't put the bolts to the inside. So there is a right and a left one of these. So, and then those just simply slide on there on these guides. Okay, both of those. And then we have, let's see, I've already kind of messed up here. I knew I'd get something out of order. There's a lot, there's a lot of steps to this. See if I can do it just by loosening this back up. Yeah, maybe I can get away with that. I forgot to put my handrails in here, so hopefully I can do this now without that all falling apart. Guess it would help if I could see what I was doing. There we go. Okay, well that's all that was. So that's no, make sure these didn't come out. Yeah, those stayed in, so I got lucky there. Didn't have to tear that all the way back apart again. Like I say, there's trying to hurry on this just to, I lost so much time on the E in it. I appreciate you guys bearing with me and staying with me on this. Put that back. Okay. Now, I think we can, I'll put that in later. Okay, you have these bushings here, like these. They slide over, they go on next onto your main rods here. And then this would go on top, and then your eccentric crank would go on next. You know, I always like to run these back as all the way to where it's fully back, and then usually your eccentric should be in the fully back position too. It doesn't seem to be that case on this model though, because this is keyed. This eccentric crank has a keyed hole here that matches the oblong shape of the post it mounts to, and takes these small hex heads, and I happened to find finally found a nut driver that works on these. I was kind of surprised. It's a 5.5 millimeter, so it's really odd. I ran through about everything trying to find something that would work, and I was kind of surprised that it was a 5.5 millimeter. Okay, so there's that eccentric crank back on, and we're gonna go ahead and rotate the other side of the engine around. Here we got our bolt to the outside. And then we've got another one of those little bushings here. That goes back up on there, and then something kind of messed up looking about this one. I don't know what it is. There we go. I think that's... go. That's what I'm talking about, how easy that rotates. Okay. And I don't really recall which way this shaft goes in. One end of this shaft is splined and the other isn't. Should have been paying a little more attention to that. It just goes back in across there like so. See, that's why I like to leave this top screw a little bit loose. Goes in easy, that's probably the right way, but if it doesn't, I guess it helps if I have it lined up across from it. There we go. That post is back in. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten this all the way down. Tighten that down, and that's rolling good. And before I get carried away about making this light bulb permanent, or this light bulb holder permanent, I'm going to put the light bulb back in. There we go. There's the light bulb back in. Sorry if this ain't coming up on a video very good. Not really paying attention. That would go like that. We got our front set of trucks that's got to go on first. That can go on there like this. That just slides in there like that. There we go. We'll get our two screws for that. Okay, you guys can see there's a lot going on here. Now, this back truck has a shoulder bolt. We got a slide or a drawbar through there, and then there's a hole that goes into it. But this shoulder bolt is not made out of a metal that's a magnet will work on. So I've got this little screw starter on this end. It's got a starter for you that will hold your screw, but this end's a magnet. But all this is this works kind of like a bayonet baseball that just turns and locks. And then you just set your screw slots kind of centered over that. Push down the screw and it'll lock it in place, and it'll hold your screw for you like that, to where you can start it in, because this screw is made out of, apparently it's made out of brass. And then it will, once it has enough resistance, it will snap and come out of there. It just lets you start it. And of course that's a shoulder bolt, so it isn't gonna go any tighter than that. So there we go. We got our locomotive back together. I think it's ready to take it over the layout, and we're going to run it. Let's take a look and see how we did here. Got some buzzing going on. There's reverse. Got a little smoke. Well, the EU is cycling really good. And it's smoking, so that's a good sign. Well, I think we got another runner again. So that's all it took. Just a new drum in the E unit, and gave me a chance to do a thorough cleaning and lube on this. So, you know, these little engines run really nice. They aren't the best pullers in the world. So, you know, if you're looking for something that's going to pull a lot of cars, this is not the engine for you. You know, unless you put some bullfrog snot or something on the drive wheels there, you know, that would pull pretty good probably. But, you know, because it is pretty heavy. It's just, you know, those drivers on those are not the best for traction. They tend to be, especially on this tubular track, it's pretty slick. So I don't know. I'm glad got another repair done. You know, I don't like my engine sitting around not working. So, You know, that was just set on the workbench too long. So I'm glad I got it restored, and hopefully you guys can take something away from this video. If it helps you, then great. If not, I hope you enjoyed this video. So until next time, I'll be seeing you. Bye. Have a good day.